Hello, I am Dr. Keith Burke. I'm a professor of behavioral sciences at the San Diego City College Alcohol and Other Drug Studies program. The AODS program here at San Diego City College is a state-funded vocational or job training program that is designed to prepare students to take the state certification exam as a drug and alcohol counselor. So in addition to getting all the classes that you need in order to sit for the certification exam, the courses in the AODS program are transferable for those students who are looking to attain higher education pursuits. So today, in this short video, I am going to talk about how to gracefully interrupt. This lecture is typically given in the group dynamics class, which teaches students how to counsel groups in substance use treatment facilities, although it certainly applies to doing individual counseling and to doing family counseling as well. Interruption is one of those foundational necessary skills you have to have in order to work as a counselor. If you cannot interrupt people, you are not going to be very effective as a counselor, particularly when you're doing group counseling. The more people that you get together in a group setting, the more I can guarantee you that you are going to have at least one big talker, if not multiple big talkers in there. And the big talkers are the ones who, in a group setting, you may ask a question, in your check-in about, as we begin today, I'd like to go around and I'd like to hear something from each of you about what you did this weekend to support your recovery. And so you go to the first person and they give you a brief summary of the fact that they went to a meeting. You go to the second person and they tell you how they confronted their mother about something they've been wanting to confront their mother about for years. And then you go to the third person who ends up telling you, oh, well, yeah, this weekend, it was a pretty good weekend. It was, well, like the weather changed, it's starting to get a little cooler, which is good. And wow, the fires in California have oh my gosh, I'm just like, I don't know. It's kind of crazy. Like there's just fires everywhere, it seems like. And it doesn't really matter so much for me because, I live in the city and, the buildings probably aren't going to burn, but, so anyway, I don't know, the weekend was pretty good. But I don't know, I'm still really just concerned about the fact that my best friend won't talk to me. Right. And you're listening to this and we're off and running and into a place that has really no relevance to what the topic is, to what the intervention was that I used. And I have to get this person back on track. So interruption takes a fair amount of assertiveness on the part of the counselor. If you are somebody that has a really hard time being assertive, or you have no idea how to interrupt other people, you're just simply going to need to practice. But I'm going to give you some tips for ways to do this in a graceful way that is almost always going to be successful in terms of your ability to get the topic back on track and ultimately to stop the person from continuing to go on and on and on and on. So the first step to doing a graceful interruption is to change your position, your body position. Most counselors are going to have some kind of a standard set way that they're sitting. You may just be sitting kind of forward with your hands on your knees. You may sit in a leaning back type of position. You may sit, with your hand to the side. There's many different ways that you're going to sit. But what you want to do first to interrupt somebody is noticeably shift your position. Some people are attuned enough to know that they've been talking for a long time. And when somebody shifts body position, it can serve as a cue to stop talking. So if I were sitting like this in my counseling setting and my client is going on and on, or I'm facilitating a group setting, the client's going on and on, I may do something like this. So what I've done is I've actually triggered the client who's speaking in a nonverbal way. We as humans are incredibly attuned to nonverbal signals from other people. That we're born with, that comes naturally. You don't have to learn how to develop that. There's some interesting biological, psychological research that suggests that our nonverbal attunement is a safety mechanism. That even when we're in the middle of talking, when we see something out of the corner of our mind will very quickly go to that to do a quick assessment of what is that person doing? Is this some kind of a threat? We don't need to get into that today, but what we're trying to do is get the person's attention non-verbally so that they have the opportunity to recognize that it's time to stop talking. And sometimes that'll work. You are facilitating and you shift your position and the person sees that and says, so anyway, I know I'm getting off track. You asked about what we did this weekend for our recovery. So what I did this weekend was I went to a meeting. Perfect, right? First step, all I did was shifted my body posture. It served as an interruption without me actually having to speak. And ultimately the person stopped talking. So great. But what if you have shifted your position and now the person is still talking? So I was sitting back and then I've shifted forward. So now what I want to do is give a nonverbal cue that an interruption is about to come. So as I've shifted forward, I may start nodding my head, and then maybe what I do is I bring a hand up there like, There's many different ways to do this, but essentially you're trying to get that signal out that, yeah. And I'm letting the person know I'm about to interrupt you. Now, again, many people, as soon as they see that, will stop talking. So anyway, I'm getting off track. You asked me about the weekend and recovery. I went to a meeting. So again, if that works, great. So there's many ways that you can give nonverbal signals. I don't recommend a very aggressive, like hand in the face kind of signal or something like that. But, some people use the finger, some people nod their head, they'll use their hand like this. You can kind of like just put your hand out in front of you in some way. Whatever your signal is that works for you, you want to do that to signal that the interruption is coming. Now, you've changed your body position first and they're still talking. Now you've tried to give them a nonverbal signal that you're about to interrupt them and they're still talking. So now you're actually going to have to speak up. You're going to have to cut them off, which is going to require you to talk over them, right? Or be talking at the same time that they're talking. A very important thing to do when you're doing this is to nod your head. Humans tend to respond well to other humans who are signaling yes. It's a type of encouragement and a type of agreement, which lowers defensiveness. And that's what you want. You don't want a person who's defensive when you're trying to interrupt them. So you're essentially trying to assure them. And then what you're going to do usually is you're going to use a short tentifier sound that says, yeah. So, yeah, got it. Okay. And so what I'm doing is nodding. Yep, I hear you. Yeah. So, and I'm using words to let them know that here it comes. Now they may stop talking, right? In which case, perfect. Again, interruption successful. But if they're still talking after I've shifted my body position, after I've given them nonverbal cues that I'm about to interrupt them, after I've begun nodding and right, using some sounds to let them know that the interruption's coming and they're still talking, now I just need to cut in. And for some people, if this is not normal for you, if you tend to be more of a quiet or timid person, you're really going to have to practice this. But this is where you start speaking. Now, most of the time as an alcohol and drug counselor, you have positional authority, meaning that the position of being a counselor in a drug treatment facility gives you some authority. And most humans will acquiesce to some degree or another to a person who has authority. So like if you were at a business board meeting, if the CEO of the company starts talking, everyone is naturally attuned to let the CEO cut in, whereas maybe their peer, they wouldn't quite be so open to doing that. So if you have some anxiety about, oh my God, I don't know about interrupting and speaking at the same time my client is, just do it. And most of the time the client will stop. Now, the important thing is that you've let them know with agreement, before you interrupt them, that I agree with you. Then you've cut in. And now what you're going to do first is you're going to use reflective listening to summarize what the person was just saying. So using the example that I did, right? So first I've leaned forward. I've given a nonverbal cue. Okay. So Maria, hold on. I want to interrupt you for just a second. Yep. So I got it. So, I mean, you had a really busy weekend. You've noticed that the weather's changed. It sounds like the fires are really impacting you. And it sounds like you were just about to tell us that you're still feeling really distressed about the situation that's happening with your friend. I got it. But I want to go back to the original question, which was what you did this weekend for your recovery. And so what I've done in providing a reflective listening summary is communicated to the client, I heard you. So if you just interrupt and then try to move on, then you may get some kind of pushback. You may get some resistance from the client. You may get an argument. You may get them continuing to talk because they feel like you didn't really understand the point that they were trying to drive home. So it's always important to use reflective listening when you've interrupted the person. And then finally, you explain to them why you interrupted and what you're going to do next. So in an individual setting, an individual session, you may interrupt the person. You're going to use reflective listening. You're going to repeat back what they just said. And then you're going to say, but I'd like us to get back on track. Right. So I've communicated to them why I've interrupted them and what I want to do next. Right. Which is go back to the original topic. If I was doing some kind of a check-in in a group setting, I'm going to interrupt, I'm going to use reflective listening, and I may say, it's really important. I'm really glad that you feel comfortable talking about this, and we're definitely going to get to you today so we can talk a little more about that situation with your friend. But I want to finish the check-in first so that everybody has a chance to talk, and then we'll come back to this. So again, I've explained my interruption. I've conveyed what I'm going to do next. If you're working with a family and you've done the interruption, it may be you interrupt, you use reflective listening, summarize what the person just said, and yeah, this is great, but I noticed that dad over there seems to be like having a reaction to this, and dad, I'm wondering if we could just hear from you for a second to find out what your thoughts are on this. Okay, so that's the graceful interruption in a nutshell. So when you have to interrupt someone, try shifting your body position first, see if that'll work. Then try to use some kind of nonverbal cue or signal that an interruption's about to come. See if that works. That still doesn't work. Then you're going to start nodding your head and using short phrases. Yeah. Okay. So see if that works. And then if none of that works, you're just going to have to cut in. But after you cut in, you want to make sure that you summarize what the person just said so that they feel heard and they feel understood. And then what you're going to do is explain why you interrupted to them and what it is that you're going to do next. So that's the way that I use graceful interruption and the way that I've been teaching it for years. If you go on YouTube, you will find lots of other people out there that have posted short videos on how to interrupt somebody. Ultimately, you've got to find a style that works for you, but it is one of those necessary skills that you have to do as a drug and alcohol counselor. We have to be able to interrupt our clients and keep things on track. All right, so that's it for this short video. If you've got any questions, you can post a comment in the video if you're watching this on YouTube, or if you have my contact information, send me an email, or for those of you in class who are watching this video, because you're required to do so, if you've got any further questions, we can talk about it when we meet next. All right.